Imagine a world where the very architect of a dietary revolution falls victim to the monster he helped create. A world where the high-fat doctrine of the Atkins diet circles back to haunt its creator. This is the tale of Dr. Robert Atkins, the physician who popularized a diet that promised weight loss by embracing saturated fats, only to later become the subject of controversy surrounding his own untimely death. Was his fatal slip on ice simply an accident? Or does a more troubling truth lurk beneath the surface? Could it be that the true culprit was not a patch of frozen pavement, but the relentless effects of a high-saturated fat diet? A monster of his own making? To unravel the mystery, we need to look beyond the headlines and into the medical records and science that have surfaced since Dr. Atkins' passing. Official reports state that Dr. Atkins died in 2003 after suffering a severe head injury from slipping on ice. But this simple explanation leaves a trail of unanswered questions, especially when we consider his documented history of severe cardiovascular disease, including coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, and chronic hypertension. Medical records released after his death revealed these underlying conditions directly linked to the very diet he championed. The Atkins diet, at its core, is a high-fat, low-carbohydrate protocol. It specifically encourages the consumption of foods rich in saturated fats. Think fatty meats, cheese, butter, and cream, while restricting carbohydrates, including fruits, grains, and many vegetables. Proponents of the diet have long argued that by cutting carbs and fueling the body with fats, weight loss is accelerated and energy levels soar. But what does science say about the long-term effects of such a dietary pattern? Recent research has cast a harsh light on the dangers lurking within high-saturated fat diets. In 2024, a landmark study presented at the European Society of Cardiology Congress shattered the illusion of safety surrounding high-fat regimens. Participants who consumed elevated levels of saturated fat experienced a significant increase in liver fat and blood cholesterol levels within just 24 days, even in the absence of weight gain. These findings underscore the insidious nature of saturated fats, which can quietly wreak havoc on the body's metabolic and cardiovascular systems. But the dangers don't stop there. Saturated fats have been implicated in a host of chronic diseases and deadly outcomes. Perhaps most alarming is the connection between high saturated fat intake and cardiovascular disease. Studies show that consuming large amounts of saturated fat raises low-density lipoprotein, LDL, cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol. Elevated LDL is a well-established risk factor for heart attacks, strokes, and atherosclerosis, conditions that Dr. Atkins himself suffered from at the time of his death. But the monster doesn't rest with the heart. High-saturated fat diets have also been associated with the onset of type 2 diabetes. The mechanism is multifaceted. Increased liver fat impairs insulin sensitivity, leading to rising blood sugar levels, and eventually, diabetes. The same 2024 study that exposed rapid increases in liver fat also highlighted the potential for saturated fats to disrupt glucose metabolism, nudging the body ever closer to metabolic disaster. The reach of this dietary monster extends even further. Research links high consumption of saturated fats to certain cancers, especially those of the colon and breast. The mechanism involves chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and changes in hormone levels, all of which can create a fertile ground for cancerous cells to flourish. Fatty liver disease, another consequence of saturated fat overload, can progress to non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, cirrhosis, and even liver cancer. Neurological health is not spared either. Emerging evidence suggests a link between high saturated fat intake and an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. Saturated fats can promote inflammation and impair blood flow to the brain, mechanisms believed to accelerate cognitive decline and the accumulation of amyloid plaques, a hallmark of Alzheimer's. Even the body's extremities are not immune. Excessive saturated fat can contribute to poor circulation, increasing the risk of necrosis, tissue death due to lack of oxygen. Poor blood flow, particularly in individuals with diabetes or cardiovascular disease, can lead to ulcers, infections, acne, immune system diseases, age dysfunctions, inflammation, and in severe cases, amputation. Returning to Dr. Atkins, the narrative of his death takes on a new dimension. Officially, he died from a head injury, but the context cannot be ignored. His heart was deeply compromised, riddled with disease, and weakened by years of high saturated fat intake. Medical experts point out that underlying heart conditions can make even a moderate injury fatal, as the heart is less able to withstand trauma or the stress of surgery. It's also important to say that randomly falling doesn't cause heart failure or head conditions related to the heart or blood. Some have argued that it was not the fall that killed Dr. Atkins, but the years of dietary choices that left his body vulnerable, choices he advocated to millions. This raises a chilling question. If the Atkins diet leads to the very chronic conditions that plagued Dr. Atkins, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, hypertension, are we witnessing the creation of an Atkinstein's monster? A dietary protocol that, rather than nurturing health, quietly builds the conditions for chronic disease, disability, and premature death? The science is clear. Saturated fats, when consumed in excess, are a powerful driver of chronic illness. The American Heart Association, the World Health Organization, and countless researchers warn against high saturated fat diets, instead urging a balance that favors unsaturated fats, healthy sugars and carbs, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Yet the legacy of the Atkins diet persists, its high-fat dogma echoing through kitchens and fitness forums across the world. To ignore the evidence is to ignore the fate of its creator. Dr. Atkins, who spent his career promoting dietary fat, ultimately succumbed to the very diseases his diet is known to exacerbate. His fall may have been the final blow, but the groundwork was laid over years of saturated fat consumption. In this light, the narrative that he died from a simple accident becomes less convincing, a convenient cover for a more uncomfortable truth. In the end, the story of Dr. Atkins serves as a cautionary tale. The monster of high-saturated fat diets is not a myth, but a reality backed by decades of scientific research and lived experience. It is a monster that can lurk silently for years, only to strike when the body is at its weakest. And as the evidence mounts, the lesson becomes impossible to ignore. The path to health is paved not with butter and bacon, but with balance, moderation, and respect for the body's needs. The true legacy of Dr. Atkins may not be a diet, but a warning, a reminder that we must never ignore the science, no matter how enticing the promise.